In this video, I have a look at the basics of getting great bokeh.
Adorama TV presents Take and Make Great Photography with Gavin Hoey.
Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that has everything for us photographers. In this video, I'm going to show you that by combining a light bulb and some Christmas lights, you can learn an awful lot about photography, and with a bit of luck, we'll even take a great picture along the way. Okay, let's get going. So I've got the Christmas lights on a lovely red festive background. That looks great. Camera set up in aperture priority mode, f8. Let's take a picture. And when I do, you can see I've got a perfectly exposed picture that's in focus. It's not very exciting. Let's change a few things and get things more interesting. I'm going to come to the lens and switch off autofocus and go for manual focus instead. And then I'm going to deliberately put this out of focus by setting it as close to the front of the lens as I can, which apparently is about 20 centimeters on this lens, and take the same shot. Now you'd think this is going to come out blurry, but when you look at the picture, those little points of light, well, they're now shapes of light. So what's going on here? Well, that's down to the f8 aperture. If you look at it, there are 7 sides to the shape. It's a heptagon, and that's caused by the 7 blades in this lens. When you use f8 aperture, they stop down, they close down the lens, and that's the shape of the blades. So what would happen then if I use, rather than f8, let's go for f2.8, which is the fastest I can choose on this lens. That means my shutter speed goes up, but also the shape changes. No longer are they heptagons, they're now more or less round. When I use f2.8, it is the wide open aperture. You may have heard that term. The blades of the aperture in the lens, well, they don't close down. Wide open gives me the shape of the barrel of the lens, round. They're also much, much bigger, aren't they? They're much larger than the f8. That's because f2.8, well, that's a bigger aperture than f8. f8 is a smaller aperture. Again, these are terms you may have heard of, and when you look at them like this, they kind of make sense. Okay, so that's some basic photographic terms explained, but what are these little blurry circles and shapes of light? They are known as bokeh. Well, at least that's what I call them. You can call them something very similar. There are other names that sound more or less the same. Whatever you call them, they are fantastic, and if you know how to use them in your photography, they can really elevate it. What this picture really needs is a foreground subject, and I've got one right here. This is just your ordinary household light bulb. It doesn't have to be in a fancy bulb holder like this, but you know what, I kind of like that. That's just pure fun. Right, things that do matter, however, well, there are about 4 things that matter to get really good bokeh. The first one is the distance between the background lights and your subject. Basically, bigger is better. However, it's not set in stone. When you change this gap, you will change the effect. So experimentation is the key here. Camera settings, well, they're a little bit more predictable. First of all, you want to go for a long lens. You want to have it nice and zoomed in. On my lens here, 40mm is the maximum zoom. This is a micro four thirds camera. If it was a full frame, that's equivalent to 80mm. That's a good place to start. Next, the gap between the subject and the lens. You want to have that as small as possible. Get in close, obviously maintaining the framing of your shot. Finally, it's the obvious one, the aperture. You want to use wide open for your lens, and that's going to vary from lens to lens. This one, f2.8. So let's dial in f2.8, check focus. I'm focusing on the glass in the middle of my light bulb, and take the shot. Now that works really well. I've got a lovely bokeh background. I can see the bulb. It all makes sense. Trouble is, the bulb looks a bit silhouette, really, doesn't it? That's because it's not turned on. Obvious. How silly. Let's just turn the light on and take the same shot again. Okay, here we go. This time, well, that's not what I wanted either. Now I've got a great shot of a lit bulb, but what happened to the background? It's completely gone. I just about can make some bits out there. Well, what's happening here is that the bulb is really bright. The camera's in aperture priority mode. It sees a really bright bulb and says, oh, I better increase my shutter speed. Those background lights, well, they haven't got any brighter, so they're not being recorded. What I need to do is balance things up, and I can do that using a dimmer circuit here on the light. I can just dim this down, let's get it as low as it goes. That should help me to balance the brightness of the bulb with the brightness of the background bokeh. And yes, that looks like that's going to be brilliant. I can see the bulbs lit, but I can also see my background. Of course, with a slight change of composition, this will look even better. So let's just give everything a bit of a twist to the side, take the same shot again, and that just adds a bit more excitement to the image. Now that looks really good, I'm pleased with that, but of course, there's always something you can do in Photoshop. So let's take the picture from the camera over onto Photoshop and do a quick bit of editing there. As is so often the case, time spent in camera is rewarded here in Photoshop with less to do, and that's always a good thing, I think. However, anything that's shiny, like a glass bulb, well, that's going to require some Photoshop work because often it's easier to remove reflections in Photoshop than in camera. Depends on the case in point. This one, well, you'll see the problem. At first glance, this picture looks fantastic. I love exactly how it came off the camera. It looks great. And then I looked a little bit closer and I could see this, and this is a reflection of the filament of the bulb, and it's just a little bit distracting. So what I did was I went back through my pictures and I also had this shot as well, and this is with the bulb unlit, turned off. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Select and All, Edit and Copy, back to the main picture, Edit and Paste. That'll put the two pictures on top of each other. Now, they fit absolutely perfectly, and this is one of the big advantages of always taking that extra shot. I hadn't planned on doing an unlit bulb shot. At the end of the video, I thought I had the shot nailed down, and then I thought, well, let's just take one or two more, you never know, and this was one of those pictures. It saves me a ton of time and gives me a really great result too. So I've got the unlit bulb over the lit bulb. I'm going to merge them together by using layers. So let's come up to the layer on the menu bar at the top. Then I'm going to come down to layer mask and then across and down to hide all. Now this will stop that layer that I've just pasted on being visible by making a layer mask. That's this black rectangle here. And black means, well, you can't see through it. You see the layer below instead. So that's fine. How does that help me remove this bit? Well, if I get a paintbrush and I make sure my paintbrush is white, if it's black, just click on the little arrows and then that'll get you at the white one. And then if I use a nice small brush, because these are perfectly aligned, they should allow me just to paint and mask away the area I want to remove. Now I could of course do this with cloning, but it's just that much more neat and better looking by using the real shot itself. Now this really is the shot. If I actually go over a bit wrong, you can see I can bring back the unlit filament. So if you go wrong, you swap to the black color and you can return it and restore it like that. Now I do have to watch out because this is a slightly different. With that filament on, it's about 1/3 of a stop brighter. So if I need any areas like that, I'll use a much bigger brush because that'll have a nice soft edge and that'll allow me just to feather in the edge and give me a very, very convincing and neat shot without any of those horrible reflections. And there is my final picture completed. Now you've learnt the basics of bokeh, I'm going to take that knowledge and move forward with my next video where we're going to do some advanced techniques using the same basic setup. Of course, if you want to see it, click on the subscribe button, and that way you'll get to see the rest of the videos from the other amazing presenters right here on Adorama TV. I'm Gavin Hoey, thanks for watching.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy to use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use AdoramaPix.com.